Hello, and in this video we are going to talk about adverbs of frequency, and we're going to talk about short answers. So we know that adverbs of frequency are always, sometimes, never. But when we answer a question, how often, like how often do you play golf, sometimes we give a short answer in a phrase. And you could answer, oh, all the time, quite often, not that often, almost never, pretty much never, and then of course never. So if you do something a lot, if you always do it, you do it all the time. And of course, if you do not do it, you do it never. But usually we use short phrases like this when we answer the question. We don't say always, sometimes, usually. We use one of these phrases. Now, we have a couple special phrases that I thought we would look at today. So the first special phrase is, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that underline, is this. For example, let's say somebody asks you, how often do you eat fast food? Now, maybe you eat a lot. You eat it often. But that's a bad thing, right? You should not eat fast food often. So you might say, more than I should. More than I should. Or more often than I should. More than I should, more often than I should. So this is a way of saying that you do it a lot, but maybe you shouldn't. Or you might just say too often. How often do you eat fast food? Too often. And sometimes we say too often for my own good, which means you shouldn't do it at all. Now let's look at about something that maybe you should do more often. So for example, if it's how often do you exercise, and your answer is almost never, well, you should do it more, so you could say, less than I should. So how often do you exercise? Less than I should. It means you should do it more. Or not enough. Not enough. And again, you could say not enough for my own good. It means you should do it more often. And then we have another special phrase that we often use, and it's quite common in English. If somebody says, how often do you golf? And your answer is almost never, right? You could say once in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon. And that just means not very often. Almost never. Now notice here you wouldn't say less than I should, because golf isn't really something that you should be doing. It's just a hobby. So here you would use a phrase like once in a blue moon. So let's go ahead and see if you can remember these phrases. So the first one is, we have, how often do you smoke? And the answer is quite often. Quite often. So you could say what? What's another way to say quite often for something that's bad for you? You would say more often than I should, or more than I should. So if somebody asks you, how often do you sleep 8 hours? Now that's a good thing, and you say, almost never. So you should do it more. You could say less than I should, or less often than I should. And if somebody asks you, how often do you play chess? You think, almost never. Well, chess is not a good thing or a bad thing, but if it's rare, you could say, well, once in a blue moon. And that's it. Those are your problems and our short lesson for the day. As always, I hope it helped.